This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 318, 6 Simple Steps to Avoid Credit Problems in a Bad Economy by Babauta of ZenHabits.net. And I am Dan, your host here on the show, as always, here Monday through Friday, reading to you from some of the best personal finance blogs on the planet. And I know you all have some topics you'd like to hear covered here on the program, and come and share them with us. We'll see what we can do. You can visit oldpodcast.com to share those ideas. Now, normally right here during this part of the introduction, if we don't have a formal sponsor, I'll mention something self-promotional to help the show. It could be for you to subscribe to our weekly newsletter, or maybe I'll mention the other shows in our podcast network. And an idea we're playing with, which Optimal Living Daily already does, is to have those sections cut out for you so that you can hear just a very basic intro and outro, with the bulk of the content being the actual reading of the blog post. To do that, we would ask for a very minimal ongoing contribution through Patreon, like $2 a month, which ends up being about 10 cents per episode. And if that's something you'd be interested in, please let us know. If a good amount of people would really want that, we can definitely make it happen. And you can contact us and let us know what you think at oldpodcast.com or via our Facebook group. And I'll mention this one more time at the end of the show. So without further ado, let's get right to the post as we optimize your life. 6 Simple Steps to Avoid Credit Problems in a Bad Economy by Babauta of ZenHabits.net. The New York Times ran a story today that says the next consumer crisis is credit cards, a sobering fact in a nation that has racked up massive amounts of credit card debt. Unfortunately, when times get hard, many people turn to credit cards to help them make ends meet and only dig themselves into a deeper hole. I've been through this myself, buying things on credit when I had no other way to pay for them. I'm not talking about plasma TVs, but about necessities like medical bills. As a result, I dug myself deep into debt, and one of the biggest decisions of my life was to get rid of credit cards and begin eliminating my debt. At the beginning of this year, I finally got completely out of debt, and I celebrated. But it wasn't easy. It took some hard decisions, some sacrifices, and a commitment to change my spending habits. I highly recommend that people get out of debt and stay out of debt, especially as the economy hits difficult times. It's not a good position to be in if you lose your job while burdened with lots of debt. Better? Become debt-free with a good emergency fund and a small budget. That's recession-proof personal finances. Here's how to get there in 6 steps. Step 1. Curtail spending. The first step is to stop the bleeding. If you're trying to get out of a hole, you've got to stop digging first. So make the decision right now to not use your credit card except in emergencies. Cut back on your spending in any way you can, at least for now as you try to get out of debt. Consider tracking your spending for a week or two at least, writing down every purchase so that you can see where your money is going. Some suggestions for cutting back? Eating out, going out, magazines, expensive coffees or other drinks and snacks, new gadgets, non-essential clothing purchases, non-essential furniture or home purchases, to name a few. Now, I'm not suggesting that you never eat out or go out to have fun, but I am suggesting that you cut back on these types of spending. Find other ways to have fun that don't cost as much. Step 2. Save an emergency fund. With the money you save from Step 1, begin saving an emergency fund as quickly as possible. Let's say you identify $200 per paycheck that you can save from cutting back on specific spending items. That's just an example. Your amount will vary. Now put that $200 into a savings fund each paycheck, and within 5 paychecks, you'll have a $1,000 emergency fund saved up. This is extremely important as there will always be unexpected emergencies that come up. You have to go to the hospital, your car breaks down, your home floods, etc. And many people will use credit cards to pay for these expenses when they don't have an emergency fund. If you have an emergency fund, you can avoid going deeper into the hole when these expenses inevitably come up. Step 3. Make debt elimination a priority. Once you have a small emergency fund saved up, $1,000 is best to start with, but you can get by with as little as a $500 fund. Begin channeling your extra money toward debt repayment. Make this a top priority or you won't get to it. That means make it your first payment each payday. Set up an automatic payment at your bank where you automatically pay an extra amount to your highest interest debt. Pay the minimum on your other debts for now, and once you pay off the highest interest debt, put all your extra money to your next highest interest debt, and so on until all debts are paid off. An alternative is to pay your smallest debt first, then focus on the next biggest debt, and so on. Step 4. Scale back your lifestyle. While Step 1 asked you to find ways to cut back on spending immediately, there are longer-term changes you can make that will have a big impact on your spending. For example, you could trade in your large car or SUV for a smaller, less expensive car that gets better gas mileage. You can eventually move to a smaller home and get rid of a lot of the clutter in your house that requires a lot of space. You can work at cooking at home more instead of eating out, brown bagging it to work instead of having expensive lunches, making your clothes last longer instead of buying new clothes all the time, and deciding you don't really need the latest computer, TV, video game system, or smartphone. The ones you have work well enough already. These changes may take time, but a commitment to scaling back can pay huge dividends over time. Step 5. Make sacrifices and buy on cash. This is an extremely important habit that may become the keystone to this entire plan. While many people buy on impulse and put purchases on credit cards so they can have it now, that's rarely necessary. Rarely do you really need to make a purchase right away. A much better habit is to save up until you have enough money to buy the item with cash. Get into the habit of waiting. Sure, maybe you need new shoes, but can you wait until you have the $50 to buy them? Yes, you can. Sure, maybe you need a new computer, but can you save up the $1,000 you need for it? It's possible. It's even possible to make your current car last longer and save up enough to buy your next car with cash. I did this with my last car purchase. Actually, it was a slightly used minivan, trading in my SUV and paying the balance on cash. The key is to wait, save up, and buy with cash. 6. Make a commitment to stay away from credit. Getting into some debt may be unavoidable. Student loans, for example, or housing loans are usually seen as good debt, especially at low interest rates. Even auto loans aren't necessarily bad debt, although, as I said above, it's possible to save up enough money to buy a decent used car on cash, so you can avoid getting into that debt. But credit card debt is rarely ever desirable for the average person. I'm not saying you should never use credit cards. Obviously, they're convenient for online purchases or traveling, although for these purposes you could use a debit card that's backed by a major credit card company in most cases. I have. But my advice is to just have one credit card, cancel all the rest, and to keep the balance at 0. Only use it when you actually have the money in the bank and then pay it off immediately. Don't use your credit card when you don't have the money. That will just lead to trouble. Make a commitment to doing this and you'll avoid credit problems and be in good shape, whether a recession hits or not. You just listened to the post titled 6 Simple Steps to Avoid Credit Problems in a Bad Economy by Babauta of ZenHabits.net. And like I mentioned at the top of the show, something Optimal Living Daily is already offering is a way for you to get an ad-free version of our show. No ads, no promotional content. And anyone who contributes $2 a month or more will have access to this private feed, and you can listen in your normal podcast app. If you would like this show to do that too, let us know, and if enough people want it, we can make it happen. The best ways to let us know whether you like this idea are through oldpodcast.com or via our Facebook group, which you can find by searching for Optimal Living Daily Podcasts in Facebook. And the shortcut link, if you want it, is oldpodcast.com/Facebook. And we might even set up a poll over there, or again, just come by oldpodcast.com and send us a message. We want to make this as convenient for you as possible. And that's it for today. I will be back tomorrow with a post from a guest author on I Will Teach You to Be Rich. So stay tuned for that on Thursday, where your optimal life awaits.
Hello, Life Optimizer. This is Justin Malik, creator and producer of this podcast, but also Optimal Living Daily, the show where I read to you from even more blogs covering finance, productivity, minimalism, personal development, and more, from incredible bloggers like Derek Sivers, Zen Habits, Mark and Angel, The Minimalists, and all the ones you hear on this show too. So if you enjoyed today's episode and like taking amazing blogs on the go, come on over to Optimal Living Daily and subscribe to that one too. And together, we'll start optimizing your life.
You've been listening to Optimal Finance Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode and head to oldpodcast.com. That's OLDpodcast.com for a free gift as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.